Good evening, everybody. Well,
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how you doing, Dave? I hope everybody likes our new intro. We spent countless hours and unicorn virgins and everything else to get that done.
Yeah.
So hopefully, please put it in the comments if you like that opening. We'd certainly issue. Oh, and we've already got our first comment from Tig Lily, and I think it's a smart-ass comment because it says, "Yay, barbecue, my favorite."
No, well, I'll read it. Yay, barbecue, my favorite.
Yeah, we know better. So how you doing? What's going on?
You know what? I was just thinking while we were waiting to go live, because I told you I got sweatpants on because we're in the shade and it's getting a little chilly, and you're teasing me because what is it? It's still 66 degrees, but there's no sun or anything, right? So it's getting a little cold. But whereas here it's sooner or later going to be too cold to do the show outside. There, it's cooling down enough that you can be outside. Are you ever going to do the show outside?
After what occurred to me on Monday night, I doubt it, because what's funny is yesterday night, my wife and her sister were out in the patio, and I'd said, when there's one scorpion, that's all there is. There won't be another one. She looked down and skitter, skitter, skitter. Here comes another one for her foot. So yeah, I have a strong feeling I'll be inside for a while.
It's funny because I used to tease you about scorpions and spiders there, and you say, oh no, it's not a problem. It sounds like it's a problem.
Well, it wasn't a problem, but I think that I probably killed somebody's grandfather or something, and now they're saying he must die. Human must die.
Are they supposed to be like spiders or anything else? If you leave them alone, you're not their food, and they're going to leave you alone?
I'm sure that KJ will pipe in one of these days when he's here that says yes. But when that scorpion that came near my foot, when I went to spray him, he turned directly at me. I don't think he cared how big I was. He's like, okay, you want to play? Let's play.
Hey, guess who's in the house?
Oh, Rich.
Rich, yes, good to see you, buddy.
It was a Dreadclaw class scorpion.
Okay, well, how big was this thing? Because I know
3.5
okay,
to
that's
3.5 inches. But that's good though. Those ones are okay. It's when they're the little tiny ones that almost look translucent.
Oh, that you can't. They're going to sneak up on you.
Well, no, they're the real poisonous ones. That's like immediate hospital time.
Oh.
Yeah, the big ones will just
hunt people. Why would they hunt people though?
Because they're evil. They are the demon spawn.
Just because they can.
Yes.
So
and I know some people have them as pets. I am smoking a Cohiba Royale.
Like Royale with cheese. Is that a French cigar?
No, it's not. Well, Cohiba, as we all know, was originally a Cuban company. I'm not sure. I should ask Tim this beforehand, who they're owned by. But I've got this one, and then there's a purple banded one. But it's really good. I was a little worried about it in the humidor, but now it's softened up quite nicely.
Right.
And what are you drinking? I guess I should say I'm drinking two ways. I am drinking Dr. Zevia, which is like Dr. Pepper. And then because of our special guest tonight, I am drinking Del Bach. It is an American single malt that is actually the peat in it. It's smoked with mesquite. So it's like a T-bone steak in a...
You sent me some of that stuff. That's pretty good.
It is good
I'm
stuff.
very well known for being a snob against American liquor for the most part. But that one was good.
How about you? What are you smoking? What are you drinking?
Smoking Oliva G. Nice box press, which, as you know, I think feels sexy in the hand. And then again, in honor of our guest, I'm drinking Ardbeg Bizarbecue.
Nice.
Right? Do a little, yeah.
Nice. Well, it looks like we got some people in the bar tonight. Please, gents and ladies, please say hello. Tell us what you thought of our intro, and get some questions ready for our special guest, which we'll bring in just a few moments. So say hello, everybody. Hey, he's here. Let's bring him in.
Hey,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome our buddy from the TSC, Mr. Gerry Stevens. Hi, Gerry.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Doing very well.
The look on his face was like, this is so cheesy, guys. This is ridiculous. Yeah. So to clarify, the title of our show, BBQ and Smoking, is barbecuing and meat smoking. In theory, but Jerry's a big pipe guy too. So if we wander off that direction, but that's not what the smoking was.
But let's
referring
qualify
to.
that. Smoking is smoking, correct? So it can be smoking meat, smoking pipes, smoking cigars,
There we
smoking
go.
cigarettes, smoking tumbleweeds,
Smoking
whatever the
tumbleweed.
case may be.
Here, P beat, missed somebody. Talisker Storm. That one. See that one. Okay. Well, sorry, Jerry. We'll get to you in just a second. But I
Oh
got
no,
a
that's fine.
bitch about Disney Cruise Lines that their selection of peated Scotch is not the best. They got Lagavulin, so you could do that. But if you want variety, they have Talisker Storm, and to me that one was a little harsh. Not my favorite one, but always glad to see B Pete chiming in with a good
B
single.
Pete? You mean P Beat?
P Pete, all of them, Dave.
Well, here's what I'm
Every
going to
single
do.
one.
Since he missed the intro, when we sign off tonight, I'll play the intro going out, so he can
All right.
take a look at it for anybody who
All
missed
right.
it.
So, Jerry, we asked you on because I think people, well, they're watching us on the shaving channel, so they know that we're traditional wet shavers, part of the shaving cadre. Part of that is there's a thread forum for you barbecuing, right? And posting your and the stuff you post looks delicious, and you do it in multiple ways. So we thought, who better than to have somebody on that makes us salivate and well, all right. No, he's a nice looking guy. He's a nice looking guy. Take that how you want.
I inhaled some of my thing, and plus, I got to ask
Right.
real quick while we're saying that. You said that the food looks so good when he presents it on the thing. Do you have a Tony Roma's close by that delivers? Is that what it is?
He just throws it on the grill.
Nice. No,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
no, we have nothing around here.
All right. So give us your grilling resume. What types of cooking? And then, so we already mentioned off camera, Dave and I, well, Dave knows more about grilling than I do. I think we're both, for the most part, gas grill guys. Dave, you've got a charcoal one, but
Yeah,
mostly,
I never use it though. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're here for your education.
All right. So,
Right.
well, I guess I've always had a gas grill. Like a lot of people out in the backyard throwing on burgers and dogs and chicken and whatever. And I've always done that. About 10 years ago or so, I had met a guy who was doing a lot of smoking and cooking, open fire cooking, charcoal, live fire, and kind of got into it. And like I said, that was 10 or 12 years ago. And I worked with this guy. And so I started getting into it more, and mostly what I do is I'm usually cooking over charcoal, and it's usually on one of 2 or 3 Weber kettles that I have. I also have a ugly drum smoker that I'm building that I haven't quite finished yet, which is basically a 55-gallon drum that's converted into a barbecue cooker.
So first of all, the term live fire, that's pretty cool. I'm going to use that from now on. It's not a charcoal grill, it's live fire.
He's going to use that for a lot of other things too. Scary
That's
Right.
true. Watch out. Live fire coming at you. But you're saying mostly over charcoal as opposed to wood, I assume, right?
Yeah, as opposed to wood or propane or electric. I've had electric smokers. I don't currently.
Come on.
But yeah, the electric smoker worked. It's good. You don't have to worry about regulating heat. It's easy to get the right temperature. I never found that I got a good smoke flavor out of it. And I never got the flavor I wanted. So I kind of went, like I said, to charcoal. And most of my stuff is on a Weber kettle, and I do low and slow. I do hot and fast.
Are you
anything
talking
in between?
Are you talking like the standard Weber kettle that's been around for forever?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 2 different, and there's actually a handful of different models. They have a basic model, they have a Premier, I have one of mine is in a cart. It's mounted in a cart with a little table, which is nice. I think it's called the Performer, and mine's a little bit older, but
So I guess I'm a little confused because, we know like you're talking about where you've got just the coals underneath and you're throwing on the burgers and the hot dogs and stuff like that. But if you're doing longer cooks, I didn't know you could do that on a Weber grill because that's a pretty small area, right? And you've got to separate your heat source from the meat.
yeah, exactly. The way I do it is I have two zone cooking. So I'll have all the charcoal banked on one side of the grill. So if my grill's here, all my charcoal will be from here over.
So it's all indirect
Yeah,
heating.
and there's accessories you can buy to little baskets or large baskets, or like me, my buddy and I at work welded some stuff together and made one.
Right.
But you can buy the accessories.
Right.
Charcoal baskets.
We've got a good question from Tiglily that's pretty much apropos for right now.
Yeah, both. I cook by feel. Like if I'm doing brisket or pork butt, pork shoulder for pulled pork. At the very end, I'm cooking to feel, but I'm all using a temp gauge. I have several different ones that I use. Some of them I leave in the meat for the duration of the cook. Some are just instant heat thermometers, but I definitely use temp probes.
You do, but
So
do you
what
think?
about?
Go ahead.
Dave.
Go ahead, Dave. No, go ahead.
So I'm thinking about. So one thing I got teased for is because I know nothing about this, and I tried to cook ribs on the grill, and so it says cook to a certain temperature. So I stuck temperature probe in the ribs, and everybody's teasing me because they're so thin, and you're trying to fit and not touch the bones and stuff. So something like that. Are you done it enough? You can cook by time because you can't feel the meat between the ribs and know that it's cooked, right?
Well, yeah, you can. If you one of the ways to tell on ribs is if you have gloves on or a pair of tongs and you pick those ribs up, and when they bend, if they start cracking along the top
Yeah.
and splitting apart, they're probably pretty close to being
Look
done.
at that.
Well,
Wow,
another
that was
thing.
worth the whole show right there.
Well, another thing that I learned about ribs, and I know that this is about grilling and smoking, but I had never cooked St. Louis ribs before. Done tons of baby backs and stuff like that. And I used the same principle without smoke, but what I did is I put a dry rub. Well, I removed the membrane, and then I put a dry rub all over the ribs, double foil wrap them, and actually did them at 225 for 3.5 hours in the oven. And I thought they were going to, because I was scared to do them on the grill because I'd never done St. Louis before. Opened them up, and then once you open them up after 2.5 hours at 225, then you coat them with some honey, put them back, foil wrap it back up, put it in for another 2.5 hours, then open it up and put your barbecue sauce on, and then put them in the broiler, and it was easy. And I've done something similar on the gas grill, but with indirect heat. So
Easy. There's like 17 steps in there, Dave.
well,
And it's not cool to admit, but I've done similar stuff with like pulled pork. When I was making pulled pork, there's been times where I wasn't able to stay at the house and watch the grill. So what I'll do, and what I have done, I usually don't do it, but I have
Right.
done it, is I will put them on the grill and with some wood chips and all my charcoal over to the one side and the pork over to the other side, and I will smoke them for a couple hours. And after that, you generally wrap them up. Well, you're not going to get any more smoke flavor once you wrap them up in foil
Right.
or butcher's paper or whatever you're wrapping them with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can cheat, and I have before with a full pork butt or a brisket or ribs. And you can smoke them and get that smoky flavor on there, and then you can wrap them up and put them in your oven and set your oven to whatever temperature you want.
Right.
And if you need to push the cook a little bit to get it done a little quicker, you can take your oven up to 275, 300 even.
Right. And I've done that.
And kind of push them and get them done because you got guests coming over or whatever.
Well, and I've also done the same thing on the gas grill, but I have a small aluminum wood chip holder. So I'll go out in the backyard and chunk off a whole bunch of mesquite wood, that's been laying in the pile seasoning, and then heat it up, and that'll start smoking. So if I do want that really smoky mesquite flavoring off a gas grill, that's one way to do it because I don't have a regular smoker. And the problem is with the problem with a mesquite grill is it's a process, to get it up to temperature, to do everything else. But Pantea's got a good question. What's the difference between a baby back and a St. Louis rib?
Location. So I believe the baby backs are closer to the backbone, and the spare ribs, or St. Louis, which are spare ribs, which is actually what you cook, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. They're bigger, right?
They're down a little bit lower, and the only difference between the spare ribs and the St. Louis ribs is the trim.
Right.
St. Louis ribs have the skirt along the bottom. Mm-hmm. They're at the bottom of the rib cage, and there's a flap of meat there that gets trimmed off, and your sides get trimmed off nice and even, makes them perfectly square for St. Louis cut. But spare ribs and St. Louis cut are the same exact cut.
What's funny is when I because I had never had them before, and you get used to baby backs, and that's the big talk. But frankly, once all that fat rendered out of the St. Louis, be honest with you, I liked them better.
Fat is flavor, man.
Yeah, and then I also heard that you can do beef ribs the same way, and I've also heard that once you have a beef rib, if it's done right, you'll never go back.
Yeah, beef ribs are really good.
So
I don't get them around here a whole lot, but they're delicious.
So Gerry, before we go on, what's in the glass? We see you sipping out of a Glencairn there, buddy.
Yeah, this is actually the Kentucky Bourbon Trail glass, so it's a fat, squatty Glencairn. This is it's bourbon. It's a Russell 10-year reserve.
Alrighty.
Bourbon.
So maybe I've heard the term you talked about wrapping things in paper, and I've heard the term stalling and getting it through that. So maybe you could talk about, and obviously there's 200 different ways you could smoke and slow roast and all this stuff, but maybe just the basics of doing a slow cook on a big hunk of meat.
Okay.
How you go about that?
Yeah. So generally, I cook more pork butts, pork shoulders than I do like briskets, but they're about, the basics are the same. So I'll set my grill up, and I'll usually get my grill going. And what I do is like I said, I put all the charcoal to one side, and I light one corner of that charcoal. So I'm not lighting all the charcoal because I don't want a lot of heat. So I'm lighting just the one corner, and then I will throw usually a couple chunks of wood on that, and I will let that go for probably 45 minutes till it kind of gets up to temperature. And on my grill, my Weber kettles, the way you control temperature is how much charcoal you light and your vents. There's top vents and bottom vents on those. And once you learn how to do it, it's pretty easy. It's just learning how to control that temperature.
You mean 45 minutes before you put the meat on the grill?
Yes.
Jeez, ain't nobody got time for that, Gerry.
Well,
all right.
Yeah, real quick. What type of wood? What type of wood do you prefer when you are throwing the wood on the charcoal?
I've used all sorts of stuff on the pork anymore. I usually use a combination of cherry and oak. So I'm not using a lot of wood in those Weber kettles. So I'm usually buying bags. I'll buy once a year. I'll buy a bag. You can get them at big box stores, hardware stores, anywhere that sells grilling stuff. Um, you can buy bags of wood, and they got nice wood chunks in there. Everything from fist size stuff to a quarter of that. Um, I like the cherry. It's a mellower flavor. Um, it seems to work well. So that's kind of what I use. So for like a long pork cook to do pulled pork, say, um, like I said, I'm getting my grill going, and I'll probably let that run for 45 minutes. But that's okay because I'll go out and do that first. Come back in the house, take the pork out of the fridge, let it start warming up a little bit. Trim any fat I want to take off it and get rid of. And the ones I'm doing are usually around 8 pounds. The shoulders that I get, because that's what I can get locally, and that's pretty average. So I'll do any trimming that I want to do, and then I usually will throw a binder on there. A lot of times it's straight yellow mustard. You put a little bit of thin coating on that, and that's just to hold the rub when you sprinkle the rub on. You don't actually taste the mustard. And you could use anything. People have used anything from Worcestershire sauce to mayonnaise to mustard to nothing. If you can, spritz it with a little bit of water and your rub will stick to it. Traditionally, mustard has been used, so that's what I use a lot. And then I will usually coat the whole thing in rub, and there's thousands of recipes on the internet. You can make your own rub, and get as complicated as you want with it, or you can buy store-bought rubs. And I've done both, and I continue to do both.
I got a question about rub, because one of the things I hate about like chicken with the skin on, right, is like almost any flavor you put on the outside is on the outside. And like the chicken breast is going to taste like chicken breast no matter what you do. Now you got this huge hunk of meat. How much of that flavor is going past the outer surface? Or is that the intention? It's just when you eat a piece from the outside, you're going to get a blast of flavor.
Most of it's not going to penetrate, I don't think, into the meat. You're forming a bark, a crust on the outside, which is usually referred to as bark, and that's where you're going to get a lot of that rub flavor.
So when you tear it up, that's going to mix throughout.
Yeah, and skipping ahead, when I do tear it up and shred it, I add a little bit of rub back in.
Got it.
So there is a little bit. So I'll put the rub on and let that sit till my grill's ready. So really, it's not a lot of time there. You're not waiting around a lot of time. So, and then usually I'll get the meat on and make sure my temperature is regulated. And usually for about the first hour, I'm tinkering with the vents on the top and the bottom. Usually the bottom vent is open about a quarter of the way, and the top vent is open about a quarter of the way also. That's usually where I start. Depending on the day, depending on how hot it is, how humid it is, it'll change a little bit. But I usually run mine right around 240 is where I like mine. But you can traditionally it was 225 was low and slow, the cooking temp. But
now I was going to ask it. I always kind of got the sense that the slower you do it, the juicier it's going to be at the end. So the slower, the better. Is that kind of true? And you have to balance that with how long you want to deal with it? Or
yeah. And I think what a lot of people have found is that you can crank the temperatures up a little bit, and there's not a noticeable difference.
Right.
And
so
I've had
you've
times before where I've kind of lost the temperature. It come in, sat down for an hour, and went back out, and my grill was at 300 degrees, and um, the pork looked like it was ready to wrap already, and it had only been on there for an hour and 15 minutes. And you just, it's usually salvageable. I got the grill back under control, and I wrapped it a little early, and I
So
didn't
wait a
really
minute,
see
you've
any
got
ill
a
effects.
temp probe on the outside of your grill, right?
Yeah.
But you're not obviously using like a Bluetooth or whatever and watching it on your phone or have an
Yeah,
alarm or
you can. I don't
but
have that, but yeah, you can get Bluetooth. You can get ones that are connected to your internet, your
Right.
Wi-Fi. So
well,
there's ones now where you can put a meat probe in, and you can go downtown to Home Depot or go shopping, and you can sit there and check it on your phone.
yeah. Well,
Um,
I would need that, but it kind of sounds like, there's the techie way to do things, and then there's the like, let's just be real, it's not going to screw up stuff too much, and I'll check it like every hour, and everything will be fine.
yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at.
And how many hours will you do that before you raise do you usually raise the temp at the end a little
Um,
bit?
Sometimes, usually, um, it depends. I'll usually get the internal temperature, and I'm usually using two temperature probes. I have one in the meat, and I have one on my grill.
Right.
So what I usually do is there's little clips, or you can use a tinfoil ball and stick your probe through it and set it on your grill. The problem with the temperature probes on your lid of your grills, those bimetal temperature probes, they're notoriously inaccurate, and I can tell you, the one on my Weber is fairly accurate. However, the temperature in the top of the grill is quite different than what it is on the rack, on
That
where you're
makes sense.
cooking your meat.
Yeah,
So
it's basically like the analog hygrometers in a humidor.
yeah,
They're traditionally just off,
yeah, they're just a
But
little sketchy.
yeah, because I've got like what you're talking about. I clip the meat the grill probe on the rack, and then I've got a separate one, and it plugs in, and then I've got another unit. It's not phone activated; it's another unit that'll tell me where the temps are at, and it beeps at me if I go over temp or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So through trial and error or experience, what I've found out is the temperature gauge in my grill, the one at the top of the lid, is 75 to 100 degrees higher than the temperature at the grate level.
Wow, that's a big difference. Wow.
So if I'm running, if I'm doing a pulled pork, pork shoulder cook, the temperature on the top of my grill is gonna read 300 to 350 degrees, when the actual grate level, or 3 inches, 2 inches above the grate level, is 240.
Yeah.
But the temperature gauge in the lid will read 75 to 100 degrees hotter.
Wow.
And that was a real surprise to me, because I didn't think there would be that much difference, but on mine there is.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, because I know that we've got a question here real quick. I know this is moving on from pork, because I do want to get back to when we start talking about seafood and some of the Oriental stuff that you cook as well. But this is from Tigla. It says, "Is there a best way to grill a T-bone?" Now, I know all three of us have tried all different methods, and so what is your favorite way to cook a T-bone or a ribeye or a porterhouse?
I like to reverse sear stuff, because I have the most control over it. And I know a lot of guys, I got buddies that throw steak on, and they'll do a couple minutes on this side, flip it a couple minutes, and they nail it every time. I was never that good at that. So the reverse sear method is basically you have a 2-zone fire. So you have all your hot coals on one side, and the other side there's basically no coals on. And what I do is I put a temperature probe in the middle of the steak, put it on the cold side, and I will let it get up to about 90 degrees, and I flip it over, and then I let it get up to, I don't know, 110, 115, and I will pull the probe out and take the steak and throw it on the other side and sear it off for a minute on each side over, real hot coals, to get to get your grill marks on there and all
Sure.
that. But what I've found is I can consistently cook, medium rare steak and have it come out really good every time.
Yeah, we do the same thing on our gas grills. I'll turn on. We've got a 6-burner, so I'll turn on 3 of the burners, 2 of them on high, and then one of them fairly low to get up to, like, I don't know, 2 and some change, and then put it on the cold side. Put a meat probe in. Now we like ours rare, so once it gets to 95 degrees, I pull it off, flip it like you said, and then fire it up till that grill gets up to, 650, 700 degrees. And then we take and then what we do is we take a cast iron skillet, put it in there while that meat's resting, and then do the grill marks, and then throw it in there with butter, rosemary, and then just baste.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and it comes out really, really, that crunchiness on the outside is just perfect. And I know Dave, and you can tell us, Dave, how you sous vide steaks.
Yeah, but because that's you're not going to screw anything up way, is you just put it in a bag, and you can get the fancy vacuum bags, but I just did it with Ziplocs. And you just put a steak in a Ziploc bag, you season it, salt, pepper, maybe throw some garlic in there, all that stuff. And then you sous vide it and take 3 or 4 hours. You can set the time.
Explain that, what that is.
So sous vide is just slow cooking in a bath of hot water. With the thought being is that if you set the water temperature for the temperature you want your meat, depending on the doneness, once it gets to that, it can't keep cooking. So you cannot overcook your meat. It's going to just stay at whatever temperature that is. So you kind of set, if you want medium rare, medium well done, based on the temperature of the water. And you can, in theory, once it gets to about an hour and a half, it's probably there, but you can leave it in up to like 3 hours without changing anything. And then you take it out, but then you've got this gray looking piece of meat, right? Because it doesn't have heat or anything. And you can do either the things you guys talk about, throw it in a pan with butter and all this stuff, or throw it on the grill and get your grill marks. And
so, it's almost a reverse sear in a bag in a way, I guess, would be the best way to do it.
Plus you can be a little
similar. You're getting it up to the temperature you want, and then
Have you heard of this, Gerry? The tataki style?
Prime tenderloin tataki style. I have not, but I'm interested in that.
Yeah. So
because if it's like tuna tataki, from the sushi realm of things, what it sounds like to me, and PB, tell us if we're wrong here, that you sear it on high temp real fast on both sides, so you have that almost a well done edge, and then as you cut into the meat, it'll probably be a little bit more on the rare side, kind of like if you've ever had tuna tataki, it's cooked on the outside, and then it's very, very, very rare on the inside.
I've seen that a lot on videos with like Wagyu.
Yes.
Right? They cook all 4. You get this little tiny piece. Yep. So PB says that.
So that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay.
That's it. Yeah. So so we got to get back to we got this hunk of meat on Gerry's grill, slow cooking away at 2 something, and then it gets to some point before it's done where you got to mess with it.
Yeah. So usually I'm going by look. And it usually happens around 165 internal temp. And I don't necessarily want it to get any darker. So I'll wrap it at that point. And this can be,
Oh.
and you don't have to. People cook stuff that they don't wrap. But I usually wrap.
So that's very interesting. So that's another thing I learned from this, because it always sounded like the way you guys talked about it is based on temperature, because I would hear I got in 3.5 hours, or I got to a certain temperature, and then I wrapped it like in brown paper or whatever it is. And I always thought that had something to do with changing the cooking of the meat. But you're just saying it's like a turkey, right? That it gets too brown, you throw some tinfoil on it, you keep
Both.
cooking it.
It's actually both, Dave. Wrapping it will prevent it from getting any darker. But it'll also, what a lot of guys are doing, the reason they wrap is to help get it through the stall. So the stall is a point at which your temperature, internal temperature will kind of rise through the cook, internal temperature of the meat, and at some point it kind of just stops. And you might have it on there for an hour or two, and it's not getting any warmer. And what that's referred to is the stall. And from what I understand, it has to do with the moisture content of the meat, and it's spending all the energy rather than warming the meat up any further. It's spending that energy getting rid of that moisture. It's sweating off that moisture. And I'm not an expert on that, but that's how I understand it. But they refer to that as the stall, where it just kind of isn't doing anything. It's not, the internal temperature of the meat isn't getting any warmer. It will eventually. It'll go back up, or start going back up. But if you wrap it, you can kind of force that and make it happen quicker.
So is that? So I was going to ask: is it? Do you wrap it just to keep the cook going? But if you didn't wrap it, it would take longer, but it would turn out the same anyway.
Yeah.
Other than the color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would still cook. Eventually, it's going to get through that stall, and it's going to go up again. So, like I said, it's usually around 165. Where I'm wrapping.
Yeah.
Well, and once you remove it from heat, it's gonna continue to cook for a while, correct?
Oh yeah, we're still a couple hours away from that.
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
So Dave doesn't have Dave does not have the patience for this nonsense.
No.
It's been 2 hours. Turn it up to 400.
Right. Dave's like, can we just DoorDash some food here? So I will wrap it up. Traditionally, people have used foil. They've used butcher's paper. And there's a lot of arguments on both sides of that. And a lot of guys will claim, the butcher's paper maintains better bark. It doesn't soften the bark up as much. And I've used both, and I don't know.
Yeah, Gerry says you're both full of crap.
Yeah, it just depends. It just depends. But
right.
Well, let's because I think Dave is starting to shake a little bit because we're still 3 or 4 hours away from eating. So let's do the magic of fast forward. And so you've got it where you want it. What's your next
step? Okay, so we've wrapped it. Yeah, we've wrapped it. We've got it up to 202, 203. It's I'm taking my instant read thermometer, and there's no resistance whatsoever. It's good. We're gonna call it. It's done. It's gonna be great. I pull it out, unwrap the foil, let the steam out, put the foil back on, put a towel over the top, towel over the bottom, and I let it rest for about 3 or 4 hours.
I knew you were going to say that. I was just waiting.
So now it's like breakfast the next day.
Yeah. So Yes, Tiggly.
And Gerry's serving me cold meat.
You don't have to do that. You can shred it immediately and you can eat it and it'll be good.
Well, I know like a steak or whatever, you rest it for a little while because the juices somehow are out
Right.
of the cells and it reabsorbs to keep it juicy. Are you
Sure.
doing it this freaking long because it's such a big piece of meat?
Yes.
I
And
see.
I'm a big proponent of resting it. I rest mine for 4 hours. 3-4 hours.
Yeah, that's
Dave,
when the
I just
salmonella
think they're
kicks in,
better.
buddy. That's
So,
a good
Dave,
time.
what you need to do is go out and get a pigeon loin. It'll be about this big. You'll be done in 15 minutes.
Right.
Pigeon loin. I'll look. I'll ask if they have it.
This is Dave's perfect comment. I'll let you read it, Dave.
You're so hungry by then a hot dog works. Well, no, Dave, I slow cook my hot dogs. I've learned that they bulk up and they look really great if you do it on slow heat over maybe like 15 minutes. You know, you don't want them done in just 2 or 3.
Oh, so that's
So I'm
considered a
very
long
patient.
cook for you is 15.
That's right. The long cook's 15 minutes.
No, but that's a good thing
Yeah.
because you can throw other stuff on the grill when you're cooking the pork.
Yeah. All right. So we need to. So you let it rest, then you rip it all apart, and then we get to eat it, right?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, don't.
Well,
Don't you have to
usually
season
what
it.
I
All
do.
right.
Usually
now,
what I
now
do
it's like
is
midnight.
you know, I shred it up and I'll add a little bit of rub back to it. You know, just sprinkle a little bit on there, and I add. I take a little bit of barbecue sauce and mix that in. And so, what my barbecue sauce is a mixture of whatever your favorite barbecue sauce is. If it's Sweet Baby Ray's or one of the other commercial sauces, or if you make your own, I take that and I mix 50% of that with 50% of it's a Chevette. It's called Chevette's. I believe it's local to Buffalo. What it is it's a barbecue chicken based that they baste chicken with. It's a vinegar based
Got it.
barbecue sauce, but it's not like the tomato based barbecue sauces. It's a vinegar base with some spices in it, and it's used as a mop for barbecued chicken is what it was.
And in the meantime, Dave, during this whole time that he's
We've
been
had
cooking,
4 meals by now.
no. Actually,
Right.
he has
I
been
went out for pizza.
but he didn't tell you that he's been in the kitchen baking his homemade brioche buns that he got from a monk in France, and so those have been baking for 14 hours.
Okay, I'm down with that.
So he's productive.
Yeah. So no, but what I didn't tell Dave was that there's been a couple meals, but you know I had hot dogs earlier in the day because I threw them on the grill, or I had burgers or something and I threw them on the grill.
You would have to. This would be like fasting, except realistically, do you eat it the same day, or that you're doing this to prep for the next day?
A lot of times it can be the next day. I have done where I get up early in the morning,
And that's the next question is how early would you start? 5 in the morning?
5 in the morning,
this is going to be a dinner thing?
Yeah.
But remember, they're also eating on that. They're also eating on that for a few days because we've seen what Gerry makes.
Oh yeah,
Gerry can wait for long.
So Dave mentioned we got to get to stuff other than beef.
Okay,
so asparagus. I agree. I can do asparagus.
Well, I got one question because I've always been terrified to do it, and Gerry, you can help me with this. I've been terrified to do a brisket because I've seen people do briskets before. You go over to the house, they slice the brisket, they put it on your plate, and you might as well take the leather off your shoe and eat it because it's going to be more tender. Briskets scare the bejesus out of me. So give us a little bit of your thought on that.
They can be expensive. They're a big cut of meat, and the price per pound is less than steak and that kind of stuff. But when you're when you're buying a large brisket, it's it's an investment, and you don't want to screw it up. So yeah, and basically the briskets that I've done, and I haven't done a ton of them, but I've done a few. The ones I've done, were pretty much the same way.
Is that because they didn't cook it slow enough? If it's dry,
They probably didn't cook it long enough. If it's dry, they may not have wrapped it, or maybe it wasn't wasn't a great brisket to begin with.
So I'm going to bullet through that.
If it's tough, it probably wasn't cooked long enough. They didn't get it to a high enough temperature to break everything down.
Well, I know that Tig Lily just put asparagus. We'll add this one real quick. I'm going to just put that up so we can see it. Corn on the grill is fantastic, especially if you make it Mexican style, but that's for another show. And then also
wait. In or out of husk?
In.
Gerry?
Either. In. I've done it both.
Either. Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's
I've
an
done
interesting
both.
one.
I grew up in husk, but then Pantea's family, it's out of husk, right on the grill. They want the
you get the
charred and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting one too, and I don't know the answer to that. I know that tofu will pick up the flavor of anything you marinate it in, but can you smoke tofu?
Sure. I've never done it, but I don't see why you couldn't.
Well, I've seen smoked cream cheese.
Yeah.
Right. They say put that in there, let it smoke, and then while you're waiting your 45 hours for the brisket to be done, you just take some Ritz crackers to your.
Jerry's done that. Jerry.
Okay,
Jerry
so let's hear about. Okay, so hold on. We got to honor PB and PB. Dang it! If you don't reach out and become you're one of the most interesting guys. The barflies, we got to do an episode with you about something. But Bronzino's fish slow smoked in parchment paper, almost like Ono and Hawaiian banana leaves. So let's talk about this. This leads us all into non-beef stuff. So you said you've done the cream cheese.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else do you smoke?
Deviled eggs.
Yes.
Tell them about that, because I would love to try those.
So, the way I do the deviled eggs is I boil, steam, however you want to hard boil your eggs. Whatever.
Right, Dave leaves them on the hood of his car in Arizona, and
indeed.
Hard boiled the eggs, peel them, and then I cold smoke them for 45 minutes to an hour. So when I cold smoke, what I'm using is the pellets, from like a pellet grill. I don't have a pellet grill, but I have a large bag of pellets, and I have a little metal mesh tray that's a little maze. It's a little, it's about yay big, and I usually will fill just the middle up, light both ends, and get the pellets smoking. And
so they won't ignite?
Yeah, they will. They'll burn,
okay.
But if you blow on them, the flame will go out, and they'll continue to just smolder, and they'll continue to smoke. And that way, you're not really cooking the eggs any further. So if you're doing cheese, like your smoked cheddar cheeses, or the deviled eggs, traditionally it's cold smoking, so you're not really adding.
So you've done that too. You've done cheese. You just stick a block of cheese on your grill with these pellets.
Yep.
So you put
the flavor to them.
So it's still the indirect method, though. It's just what time? If it's a cold smoke, you're barely above 100, 110 degrees.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just that cold smoke in there. It's not generous. Huh?
How long?
I do the eggs for 45 minutes.
No, that's not bad.
So, and then once they're done, take them in the house, cut them open, take the yolks out.
You're smoking them whole.
Yes.
Wow.
You peel them.
Do you put them in a pan? Do you put them in a pan, or?
I put them right on the grate.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So Dave and I could do this in our gas grills, because you're not even using the grill part. You just put this pan of pellets in there.
Yeah, you could do it in a cardboard box.
Oh, baby.
You could do it in a cardboard box if you want.
Well, I've always wanted to try the smoked cheese. I've always wanted to do that.
Nope.
Dude, we're doing that this weekend.
Yeah.
So, and then for my deviled eggs, I usually use mayo and mustard and a little bit of bacon crumbles.
No apple cider vinegar?
I don't. Sometimes a little drizzle of pickle juice.
We do that.
In,
What
in
about
the,
now?
in the mix?
Do you put do you top them with paprika?
I don't. What I do on my
Oh.
smoked ones,
Okay,
I
all
top them with barbecue rub.
Oh, that's
I take a
different.
look, which is most of them have a high percentage of paprika.
Excuse me though, if we're having brioche buns, you got to stick your pinky up and put some chives on top of the deviled eggs.
You could do that too. You could add anything.
You know, I could only eat maybe 2 dozen of those before it'd be too much.
And if you take these smoked deviled eggs to a party, you'll be everybody's favorite because they're just different enough that people who like deviled eggs are going to eat them and go, "Wow, these are fantastic. They're different than everybody else's eggs."
So what type of smoke? Like a hickory or a cherry or whatever the pellets?
Yeah,
really.
Mine's a competition blend, and it's got I don't know. It's like 3 or 4 different woods, and they're all.
See, I never knew that you could use pellets in just a container rather than a pellet grill. Huh.
Yep.
Very interesting. Okay, let's move on to.
Mine is the amazing smoker, amazing smoker, and they have tubes, metal tubes, or the tray. So
yeah, Dave, I'm looking that up on Amazon right now. If you ask.
No, what I'd like to do is I'd like to. Wow, this is a smoked pecan pie. That would be interesting too.
Yep.
Because you can cook. You know, a lot of people don't realize you can cook pretty much anything. You can cook in an oven. You can cook on a grill.
Smoked mac and cheese.
Yes, that I've had. So let's move on from the beef, chicken, and let's move on to seafood because I know seafood can be very finicky on the grill.
Oh,
yeah. I don't do a lot of seafood. I don't eat a lot of fish.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him, Dave. Does he look like he eats seafood?
I fish a lot. I do some fly fishing, but I don't eat a lot of fish. I have cooked salmon. I have done salmon on the grill, but definitely not very often.
Well, the problem to me is if you become or if you are a sushi eater, just lay that out there. Once you have raw salmon, cooked salmon tastes like a tennis shoe, in my opinion. It really does.
It depends what you put on it.
Yeah, no. Raw salmon is just the best. The best.
I don't know. As long as you've got butter running off of the sides of it, it's all right.
Well, you could put butter on a stick and it would taste good.
True.
If you smoked it,
Now,
you got to
one thing that
stick.
a lot of people do not know about is the wild leeks. I wanted you to talk about that. Explain to us, number one, what a leek is, because I always thought it was just a wild version of a green onion, but there's more to it than that.
I think they're in the same family, but they're definitely different. They're definitely not an onion. Depending on what part of the country you're in northwest Pennsylvania, where I'm at, we call them leeks. They're also called ramps, and they run down, I think, through like the Appalachian areas and up into Pennsylvania. And they look like when you pick them, they look like a small green onion. The leaves are different, but they are very pungent and very powerful, and they're very polarizing. So people think Limburger cheese. Like people either like Limburger cheese or they hate Limburger cheese because of the smell. Leeks are almost on that level for a lot of people. They are very, very pungent smelling, and a lot of people do not like them.
I think they're fantastic.
A lot of us are. They're very good. Traditionally around here, they're usually put in a leek dip, which is a cheese-based spread. And everybody has their own secret little recipe, and basically it's cheddar cheese and cream cheese mixed together with leeks and whatever else you want to put in them.
So is this a type of dip that you want to eat assuming that you have the weekends off, you eat it on a Friday night because by the time it purges out of your system, you'll be ready to go back to work on Monday.
Yes. Or you do what a lot of us do, you make it and take it to work and just piss people off. Because your coworkers hate you. If they don't like leeks, and you can smell it across the room, and if you eat it like in an enclosed area, you can come back hours later and it just smells. You can smell it. It's very distinct.
Now, I know you go out and you pick the leeks. Do they grow near creeks in your area? Is that where you find them?
Yeah, they usually do. They usually grow in heavily wooded areas that have a lot of leaves that drop year after year after year, and they're usually in damp, loose soil, and oftentimes it is by creeks. And the place where I go, it is by a creek. Actually, it's not always, but a lot of times it is.
I do need to mention this because I would argue, and we can have a debate on this, is the South, and I would say Louisiana in general, has got some of the best food, bar none, period, end of story. Cajun food is amazing, but I've never, we've had the crawfish boil, but have you ever smoked crawfish or anything like that, Gerry?
I have not. I've eaten crawfish a few times, but we do not have. That is not very popular up here.
Well, the biggest thing we learned from this is that cold smoking, and you could throw anything in there.
Yeah.
So,
well,
man, once I learned how to do that,
yeah, that's a game changer. But you don't have very much room on your patio for a smoker, do you?
Dave,
I'm gonna do it in the gas grill, buddy.
Yeah.
Dave, you could cold smoke salmon and then sous vide it.
That's a good point. So one thing I wanted to go back to the pork. In Puerto Rico, they have what they call lechon, which is pork. And what they do is they will go out and it's a big thing. The first thing that happens about 5:30 in the morning, the guys get up and they start drinking rum. Then they get firearms. And then they head off into the jungle in Puerto Rico to find a pig. Now, when they find that pig, they bring the pig back. They'll field dress him, but leave the head and everything else on. And then they will season the inside cavity, close it up, dig a pit, usually 3 to 4 feet, cover it in banana leaves and some seasoning, cover the whole thing with dirt, and go back to drinking rum and playing dominoes. After they get done doing that and they remember, somebody goes, Hector, did you forget about the pig? Oh, shit. And they will go and they'll unwrap everything and then they shred it. And that's called lechon asado. And I'll tell you what, they serve it with a crusty bread. It is to die for because you cut it up in chunks. And in Puerto Rico, as you're driving, I don't think there's any hungry people in Puerto Rico. Here's why. Because every 5 feet, there's a food stand where somebody has said, I can make a few bucks. And you get there and you get a big plate of lechon tostones, which are fried plantains, some rice and pigeon peas, and they'll charge you $2. And you've got a mound of food, and it's just, it's wonderful.
That sounds delicious. Yeah, I've never done that kind of.
Sharon won't let me. Sharon won't let me dig a pit in the backyard and throw a pig in it.
Oh, pig! Well, here's a shank and fresh ham. Smoking a ham.
We didn't even talk about ham. Yeah.
What else do you smoke, Gerry? Is there anything else? I mean, so you already sold us with the mac and cheese and the deviled eggs. Is there anything else that we wouldn't think of that you throw on there?
Pork loin. So what I'll do with a pork loin is I have a rotisserie attachment for the Weber kettle, and it's basically just a steel rod that goes into a little motor that turns it real slow. So what I'll do with a pork loin, and I'm talking not a whole pork loin, but like half of it, something about that long and about yay big around. I will usually just hit that with some salt and pepper and put it on the skewer and get it on there and get it turning. And I'll have charcoal on each side of the grill, and the skewer with the pork loin on it in the middle, so it's turning around and there's charcoal on each side. And I will cook that until for those just about 140 degrees, 145 on that pork loin, and then pull it off and rest it for a little while, not 4 hours. And what what I will do is I'll slice it up on the deli slicer that I have, real super thin.
Oh wow!
All right.
Almost as thin as like luncheon meat.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
And then you take a nice bun and you get some coleslaw that you like, and you pile a bunch of that shaved pork on the bun, and then a scoop of coleslaw, and then the top bun. And that's pretty good eats there. And it's a little unusual. Most people don't cook pork loin on the grill like that.
Well, then are you cooking at a higher temperature? Is that why you have to have it turning?
Yeah, that'll cook. That'll be 325, 350, because I got all the charcoal going. That's not low and slow. That'll cook fairly quickly.
Okay, so we got about 15 minutes. So if anybody has any questions for Gerry, but two things I want to end up with is, one, I know by knowing you that you also have an affinity for Oriental food and cooking Oriental, and some of the things that you've cooked. And I know that Oriental food can be a bear to cook. I mean, a lot of people say it's fast and easy because you heat up the wok and you just stir fry it. But some of the things that you've done, and if you talk a little bit about that, as to, was there something that kind of turned you on to doing Oriental style food, or?
There's not a ton of Oriental stuff that I make. I make a few different things, and a couple of them were inspired by a buddy of mine that I used to work with, and turned out to be a fly fishing buddy. And he also does a lot of grilling and is a very good cook. His mother is from Thailand, so he's got a bit of influence there, and he's taught me a couple of Thai dishes like Thai larb or Thai lap, depending on what part of Thailand you're from. I do like a hot sour soup, Chinese hot sour soup that I've made my own. Other than that, trying to think, there's a couple other things, but I think that's about it. But
yeah, because I know there's some of those you shared on the forum as far as those. And P-Beat's got one question for you real quick. Basically, has Gerry had the 14-ounce Kansas City strip at Salvatore's in Buffalo rubbed in pastrami with an egg on top?
No, but I would love to try that, PB. I know what you're talking about, and I know I'm familiar with Salvatore's. I've been there. I think I've only been there once, actually. Yeah, I'm probably 80 miles south of Buffalo.
Road trip.
So right, well, I grew up about 50 or 60 miles south of there, but
and I avoided this one because I had no idea what B. Pete was talking about, but I did look it up, and then Tig Lily's asking about it. So I don't know if anybody else knows about it, but these are garlic scapes. They look like little. So you know about these, Gerry? I've never seen these things in my life.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, my mom has grown garlic, and she'll get those garlic scapes, and they're delicious. And I've never thought about grilling them.
So it's part of the garlic plant then.
Yeah.
I see.
Well, there's your next. That's pretty cool. So let's do this in the final moments. We'll go around the horn here. But those of you in the bar, if you can, put one of, if not your favorite. Like if you were to have a favorite meal, that whether it be comfort food, whether it be just something you want to try, but your favorite food that you've always liked. Because remember, you guys are the co-hosts, so we'll start with you, Dave. If you have a favorite meal what would it be?
Dude, we did this once before.
Yeah, we're going to do it again.
And I honestly don't remember what I said.
It's good. See, that's why we're doing it again.
So right now, tonight it would be a filet mignon with a baked potato. But the baked potato has to be cooked the way like the restaurants did it, where you got salt just stuck all over the outside of it.
And it's crunchy?
Yes.
Okay. How about you, Gerry?
Oh, I love brisket. I love a good brisket. Probably brisket with some cowboy beans and smoked mac and cheese, I guess.
There you go. For me, most people think, being from Southern Arizona, you think a mesquite grilled porterhouse or T-bone. What we call borracho beans, which are, cowboy beans, some bread, fresh bread with butter, and a baked potato, the way Dave's talking about it. But for me, actually, from my heritage, is you take pasteles, which are basically a Puerto Rican version of tamales, except it's made with yuca and banana leaves. And what you do is you do it just like that. You have pork in the middle and onion and olives, and then you fold that up and you boil it in a banana leaf. So that's one. So 2 pasteles, tostones, which are the fried plantains that are smashed down, rice with pigeon peas, and maduros, which is a sweeter version of a banana that's grilled, but it still maintains its consistency. It doesn't become mush. That would probably be my favorite meal. And then, of course, I could eat sushi 7 days a week, 3 times a day, but that's aside the point. So who else has got good stuff out there, Dave?
Well, I posted Rich's curry pork. I posted Tig Lily.
Oh, read them.
I posted them, Dave. Maybe curry poke and Japanese style over rice, and Tig Lily's pot roast with grilled asparagus or chicken piccata.
Yeah, that's
there
her
you go.
favorite.
Chicken. Oh, that's that one. It seems so simple when you eat it, but yeah,
it's not that hard to make. It really isn't. We tried it. It's really easy. But where we found, believe it or not, where we found the best chicken piccata, you're gonna laugh, is at oh God, I just went blank. Maybe I'll get some inspiration as where it's at. Cheesecake Factory, of all places. Best chicken piccata on the planet. Yes, I know.
I'll be happy to hear that.
Yes.
PB, he's from South Carolina, shrimp and grits, but from Gerry's part of the country, beef on weck. What is weck?
So PB, I don't know where PB's from, but he's spent some time in Buffalo or in that area, or knows somebody there. So beef on wick is basically a roast beef. You take a roast, either a bottom round roast, top round roast, eye of round roast. They all can be used. And you cook it rare in the oven is how it's generally done. Now, if you're in Maryland, it's Maryland pit beef. You cook it outside on wood or charcoal. Same thing. But in Buffalo, beef on wick, it's pronounced beef on wick. What the weck is the Kimmelwick roll. So it's basically a roast beef sandwich on a roll, but they cook it in the oven and it's still pretty rare on the inside usually. And again, they get the deli slicer and they slice it really thin, very thin, and you pile it up on this bun. Well, the Kimmelwick buns are traditionally have caraway seeds and salt on them. On the top of the bun, and it gives it a unique taste with the caraway
in a way,
seeds
in a way, it's a lot like an Italian hot beef in Chicago. Same type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's regional.
And if you're in, like I said, if you're in Maryland, it's a Maryland pit beef, and they're putting it on a regular bun without the salt and the caraway seeds.
Pantea's got this, and I want to try this: eggplant stew over rice. And I'm with you, Pantea. Anything Asian or Thai, I'm there. But I'm assuming, Dave, that you've had that.
I have. It's stew. Not the stews are not my favorite. Yeah, I've had it, and of course the rice with the tahdig, the crispy right. Bottom rice.
And then Dad says grilled salmon.
Salmon, Northwest, buddy.
Yep.
Home of the best salmon. Yeah. All righty.
Pantea had a comment earlier that was interesting too, and I didn't know
What was
this. I think it was when we were talking about the leeks, and she said they're mistaken for being in the onion family, but really aren't.
Yeah.
Um,
Because they're similar coloring, right? And similar shape.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Gerry,
All right.
first and foremost, we want to thank you for being with us tonight. It's been a lot of fun, and we have a challenge, and we want the barflies to keep us at post here. Our next show, which hopefully will be next Tuesday at 6, we're going to try to do the subject without ever talking about food.
What's the point? Let's start with food.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can make it.
So, well, thanks for having me on, guys. This was
no
fun.
problem. And what I'm going to do for the as we roll out of here, and thank you everybody for supporting us. We appreciate it. As always, please let your friends know to subscribe for us because, as you know, right now our channels, both Nurse Dave Shaving World and Barber Dave Shave and such, that's where this show's live. We want to move that over to the Drinks and Dave's channel, and once we get to 100, we can do that. So please get people to subscribe.
Can I point out that I told Gerry to have everybody at his work, watch the show, and we can see the type of pull he has with everybody there. That's all.
Yeah, I'm on vacation this week. I haven't seen the guys since last week. So
well, here's what you need to do, Gerry. You need to smoke some deviled eggs, take them into work, and say, "Hey guys, come and I'll give you an egg for every subscription. You get an egg."
There you go.
That would be the thing to go. So, okay, well, what we'll do, Gerry, once again, thanks again. And we'll go ahead and play the intro for those of you folks that didn't see it. So, as they say, good night, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Peace.